My name's Matt Camp with Deal Machine. It's a real estate investing technology, helps investors generate leads and manage those deals. So anyone in kind of the real estate world, the fintech world, always looking to team up with people there. I really work on partnerships there overall. So yeah, love getting to know people in those worlds. Today, really excited to introduce Diane. Every time I talk to her, I learn something new. Like she's phenomenal about speaking on anything about the founder's journey. And today, obviously, the theme is growing a company from 0 to 50 million in 6 years. Like she's had multiple exits, had multiple really exciting, successes, and can also, reiterate the lessons she's learned over the years too. So I'll let her kind of run the show today when it comes to open Q&A, relaying those lessons learned, but very excited to bring her on, and she's fantastic at what she does. So Diane, do you want to maybe talk a little bit more about that background and take it from there?
Absolutely. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Graham. So yeah, this group, first of all, the Funders and Founders has been amazing. I love it. Thank you so much. And I see a whole bunch of you who have made personal connections with offline afterwards. And it's just been fantastic. So thank you everyone for being here. I'm really humbled. And I know I've been in impressive company with the other speakers. So when I heard about the Lunch and Learn, I'm pretty sure I blurted out, "Oh, I'll do one." And I realized I've never actually told this story. So like typical of me, I'm like, "Oh, I'll do an Ask Me Anything about the time I built a business to $50 million in 6 years." And after that, I've been like, "Oh shit, like now I'm gonna have to actually tell my story." But I'd love for this to be interactive. You guys can type in the chat or whatever. If you want to unmute, that's fine too. So I'm going to start and I'm going to share some beginning parts and pieces that, and I work with entrepreneurs and pieces that I think are helpful. And there's always like advice that I hear or read about, and I'm just going to share what I did and how I did it and what happened. So anyway, here we go. Okay, so it starts with the why, right? Some people say like you have to have a passion for what you're doing, or build something around what you're truly passionate about. Well, I was a newlywed, and my husband and I just wanted to spend a lot of time together. That was basically why we decided to start a business, because we were both in jobs. This was my first job out of graduate school, which by the way was in French literature. Some people think I have an MBA, but I don't. And so we basically we were newlyweds, and we were 26, and we just wanted to be together, and we were like bummed out about working in cubes. So that was really the decision that we were going to start a business. So, and that was my first co-founder, who's now my ex-husband, but he was my husband at the time. That's like the seventh story from here. That's another story. But so yeah, and then we thought, well, what if we could start a business and then sell it and retire? So that became our driving factor. So really my passion became building a business that was gonna solve that personal need of what I wanted. And in the process, it turned out that I really like building businesses, and I found that out. So then we had no idea what we were gonna do. I was working at a computer distributor and had been a French TA for 1 year. And that was it. All I knew was I was really not good at graduate school. The chair of the department called me, and when it was time to like transition to PhD, and she said, "We think you'd be better suited towards business." So I was heartbroken at the time. But anyway, that's another tangent. So, but we're open to ideas, and my husband at the time was working in title insurance, which is what my dad was. My dad was worked in a title insurance company his whole career. And it was something that I thought, if I ever am involved in title insurance, please kill me. So anyway, of course we came up with the idea. We are looking for ideas, and we were always brainstorming. Like, so there's always like, every time I've encountered something in a business, it's like a puzzle, right? It's like this million piece puzzle. And so first you have an idea of what you want it to look like, and then you've got to find the pieces, right? Like, you know that you can put this puzzle together, but what are the pieces? So that was the first piece and what we're going to do. So anyway, a lot of brainstorming, a lot of collaboration, and we're actually having dinner with my dad. He was visiting, and he said, "Why don't you start a temp agency for title insurance people?" Which was like, sounds like the most random thing, and it's like super specific, and it was a really good idea. And I had temped all through college and graduate school, and anyway, so all the details are not important about what we did, but the one detail that is extremely important was the timing. And you guys may have seen Bill Gross from Idea Lab has a TED Talk where he talks about how the most important, what does he say? He says, timing is actually the single biggest reason why startups succeed or fail. The other four, the idea, the team, the business model, and funding, don't even come close. So there's a lot of things that I had no idea about this stuff back then. I mean, I didn't know about anything. I just didn't have a lot of fear back then. But when I hear some things like this talk, I'm like, oh yeah, that was it. Like that was the gold. Our idea was really good, but our timing was even better. I do think and when he talks about the other four, to me, the next thing is it's the only reason besides timing that a business fails is because the founders don't want to make it work anymore. Because all those other things the team, the business model, the funding, those are all things that you can solve. Anyway, so the timing was really good. It was because of our niche. Title insurance, if you don't know, is it's all the technical things that happen in real estate transactions. It was 2 years after the big Northridge earthquake in California. The biggest housing market in the US was in Southern California. And these were really technically specific positions in a highly volatile market. And no one was doing it yet, or no one was doing it. So we thought. So we had the idea. Okay, and then we had to plan. We had to figure out how do we make this happen. So here we have this idea with absolutely no experience. So we went to Barnes and Noble and we bought a book called How to Start a Temp Agency for Dummies. Swear to God, that's what we did. So we had the How to Start a Temp Agency for Dummies book. We bought 2 books. We bought that one, and we got How to Write a Business Plan. And we spent our weekends. We read the How to Start a Temp Agency for Dummies. I think it was about a 76-page book. It was not a long book. It was not very juicy, but and then we took that business plan book. We ripped out pages and we assigned each other sections and we wrote the business plan. And then we just and then we took from my temping and stuff like that. Like we basically took the carbon copies from other people's timesheets to make our contracts and just piece some things together. And then we laid a little bit of groundwork. We took an ad out in the Los Angeles Times because we're a placement, we're going to be a temp agency. And so we put out an ad for a title assistant. I got a PO box near my work and I checked the PO box every day. And one day I got a resume. And to this day, I get goosebumps when I think about it. We had a little lunch break, opened my PO box, and back then this was a pretty long time ago. People mailed in resumes, and I got a resume, and I started crying. And then my husband called me, and he said someone actually called him a salesperson because they were supplying temps for title insurance. So we're like, oh my God. And then I went to Step Aerobics that night, and they were playing the dance mix of "Isn't It Ironic" by Alanis Morissette, and I'm like, oh my God! And I quit my job the next day. So we had money saved for a down payment on a house. We had $35,000 set aside for a down payment on a house, and we decided not to buy a house. We decided to invest and start this business. And everybody at work, I quit the next day. And everybody at work, I remember, was like, oh, that's such a big risk. And I was just thinking, like, you people are crazy. I'm like, I'm thinking about like it's a bigger risk to like sit in this cube the rest of my life, and I just remember like at that time, I'm like, I just, I don't know. Anyway, we did it. And I quit the next day and I had that one resume and no idea about anything. So again, it goes back to that puzzle, right? And I just saw your text, your chat about slides, but I'm not going to share my slides because they're not very pretty. I have one slide that I might show you at the end. So we took, so we did like one step at a time, sort of. We had to figure out workers' comp. Payroll, being an employer in California is complicated. I think being an employer anywhere, but again, we had no idea. I mean, we didn't even realize what payroll taxes were. And then we started placing people. So we rented a house. I found a house and where we could interview people. And these people were coming in and they were like wearing suits, and we were these kids, and they were like, and we really had no clue. So anyway, we started interviewing people, and I started calling people's references, and we started getting jobs, and we started placing people. We started figuring out what our markups needed to be. We started learning about payroll taxes, and before you knew it, we had a $20,000 week. And we were like, oh my God, that was a big milestone. We had $1 million business. That's how we saw it. And we used to fax out, like we had a fax machine, and we'd fax, we have 20 tops out or whatever it was. And then we started getting paid. And that is always, sometimes I talk, and I've started several businesses since then. It's always like that first, it's like hanging up the first dollar when you have a restaurant, it's like that first dollar. There's another story, other stories too, but like in the first internet boom, like I always bootstrap things, and I always believed in running profitable businesses. So that was the foundation of it. Even later, there was I started a job board. And that was actually, we ran it as a successful or profitable business for like 13 years, but it was small, but profitable. Anyway, I'm kind of maybe going on a tangent. We're definitely going on a tangent. So yeah, so we just, and then we kept our goals in mind, right? Because we knew that we wanted to sell. And that was still our goal. At one point, my husband said, he goes, God, it was our first year. It must have been like a really stressful night. We used to do our invoices and payroll. We would watch Melrose Place that night and do that. And he's like, if somebody offered us $100,000, I'd sell this. I got so mad. It's like, are you kidding me? No, we're gonna keep going. And but there's those moments, right? Like, and I when I coach my clients, like I can see those, like there's those moments where it's like, because it's one thing, there's so many different phases, right? And it's one thing to get it started, which is so exciting. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, damn, I have this business, and it's like, you've got to do all the hard stuff and the employees and then, yeah. So we kept on, we had a team of advisors. We didn't always agree on what to do. So we'd meet with people. We had a board of directors. We always set things up very, I joke about how clueless we were, but we did set things up from the very beginning like we were a company. No one knew we were married, unless they worked for us or they got to know us. We set it up. We just always set it up like we had this attitude that we were a big business. Even when we were in this rec room on the side of this house we rented that had cockroaches and like our neighbor's refrigerator in the front yard, we still were like, we acted like we really had a business. So we met with advisors, and we'd always be kind of recruiting and looking for people who could help us and help us grow. And then we brought in, so we got to the point I had Actually, I was working so much. I was pregnant then. I almost lost my baby. I realized that I didn't even realize, because like this was the part, like I was so entrenched in the business and working. I didn't even realize I had gone into preterm labor. Like I was like 6 months pregnant. So that's, and we were talking, Brad was talking about going to Zion, and like it's like, and the people I work with are like, a lot of the people I work with are, we like grind, like we're doing things, like one of my clients had like a 7-page to-do list. And it's like, as entrepreneurs, sometimes we don't realize how much we actually get done. And it'll be like, oh my God, people are like, I have so much to do, I didn't really get enough done. And I'm like, why don't we look at all the things you did even today? Because it's like, I think the entrepreneur personality is like, we just push through. So at that point, we really realized that that we needed to bring on another person. Like we needed to bring on a co-founder. And I went on bed rest for my whole 3rd trimester. My husband put a fax machine next to my bed. That was not, again, we're not married anymore. So that but I did. I kept on working on my side. I mean, we actually had business meetings. We lived in Venice Beach then, and people would like come to the house, and I'd be like lying on my side. It was insane. But we ended up, because we had been developing relationships, and because we had our eye on where we wanted to go, we identified a co-founder. And back then you don't really call them co-founders, but like a partner. And the way that we funded and brought on a team was that we found people who, I talk about this a lot. Like we found people who the business had to be a vehicle to get them to what they personally wanted out of life. So, whatever their why was, right? So like for us, the why was to sell the company. It was to grow a company. And this was in our business plan. This is what we're going to do. We're going to grow and build and sell a company. That was our why. And so to me, and I read a lot of articles about like how to find a co-founder, and it could be, someone who like, I don't know, really believes in the product, or it could be like, somebody like, there's a lot of stuff about grit, and, all that stuff is true. But to me, the most important thing is that the actual business has to get them to where they want to go to. So we found someone who had an MBA, which was something we did not have, who was really polished and good at talking to people on Wall Street, who his goal, he had 2 main goals when we met him. One was to join YPO. We didn't even know what that was back then. The other one was to be the CEO of a publicly traded staffing company. So what we were doing completely could satisfy his goals. He joined YPO. He loved it. He was like, got to do that. And then, and his goal was to become the CEO of a publicly traded staffing company. Our goal was to leave, to sell it. I mean, it wasn't, it was fun and it was great, but we didn't want to do that forever. So anyway, so we brought on a partner, and we did, and we brought in some subsequent partners. We had our partners put in money. So we also needed money at that time. He did not realize how badly we needed money at that time. And looking back at it, I was like, I cannot believe he did not do more diligence, because we really needed money. It all turned out good. He became a multimillionaire and bought a beautiful home and everything like that. But when we brought him on, we were like, oh gosh, I wonder what he's going to do. Because it was one of those moments. It was a very cash intensive business. And so we'd bring in partners who would put in money, and they had skin in the game, and they had a reason to stay. So that's kind of the beginning part of the story. I might pause and see what questions people have. or if there's questions now, and if not, I can move on to the next part. But I'd love to love to hear if there's any questions or comments or what you guys would like to hear.
Could you just speak a little bit more about kind of the way in which you positioned yourself for an exit?
Yeah. So that was a gnarly story. So when we decided, and it came about so differently than we thought it would. So we decided, once we had our team in place, and we had and then our revenues hit $1 million a week. So then we celebrated that. And things were getting really also stressful. I had my second baby. And we decided it was time. Like, this was time we were going to go out for an exit. So we hired an investment banker, and we, I don't know if anyone's gone through that process, but they write a book. So we paid them a lot of money, and they basically write a book that positions your company to exit. And we also, and I've positioned exits in different companies in different ways, and I've done exits in different ways. One being on a yellow notepad calling everybody I know. That was a lot cheaper than the investment banker route, but this is what we did with this company. And then what happened was, we had about 5 parties that were interested, and it was a combination of strategic buyers and private equity companies. We had a deal with a company called TMP. They were the holding company that owned monster.com. And we were so excited. We had a deal that we thought was going to be, it was such a good deal, we thought. And they flew in from New York to due diligence. And their whole team was at my CPA's office when 9/11 happened. And that morning, and this might sound just absolutely terrible, but when I had the news of the trade towers hitting, I was like, oh man, that's part of my personal part of it. Is I'm like, that deal's not happening. And they were actually from I think Ernst & Young. Their offices were in the trade towers, so their accountants were there going through all our stuff. And then the next few days after that, they said, oh, we're still going to go through. Deal's still going to go through. And then it ultimately fell apart, which ended up to be a lot of it was stock. And their stock totally tanked. So if the deal had gone through, it would not have been a good situation for us. So we were really devastated. And that's the first time I ever went to therapy. I was like, I'm going to die. I can't but it was, and then we decided that, okay, well, the world has changed. This is not the time to sell. This is the time to hunker down. And we're going to wait a few years. We're going to grow, and maybe we'll buy some companies. So we hired someone to come on board to look at companies for us to buy. And while he was making calls, somebody said to him, this was like a few weeks later, they said, no, but actually we have a company that might want to buy you. And going back to the deals have to satisfy everybody's whys. The company that bought us, the CEO, she had founded she had gone IPO. She had a staffing company. She wanted to retire and take acting classes. She wanted a CEO. She couldn't, because we had just had big tech crash, and they were a technical staffing company. She couldn't attract this. She saw an acquisition as a way to attract a CEO and for her to retire. So when everybody has a personal reason and a motivation, so, somebody told me why the deals will happen and they fall apart a lot of times, as this one did too. But that's what ultimately ended up happening, and that's who bought us.
Now is another interesting time. What advice does that company right around September 11th, and obviously the associated stock market crash? What has that taught you apply now?
Graham, you broke up. I don't know if you broke up for everyone or if my volume's getting bad, but I think you said what about, can you guys still hear me okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So I think you said with September 11th, like, how do I see things now with the market with COVID?
Yeah.
Was that?
Yeah, exactly. Sorry if my internet connection's bad. Yeah, since you tried to go through sale right around September, how do you see that now with uncertain times during COVID?
Yeah, it's, you know, in when COVID first happened, I know for me and for a lot of people I talked to, it's the only thing that anyone could compare it to was September 11th at the very beginning. And it was all of a sudden, 60-year-olds should stay at home. And, it was like all this news was like, oh my God, like it was that realization that the world has completely changed. And, I think like with September 11th, the world did change. And I think now, the world has most definitely changed. It'll never be the same as it was before. But I started I started a coaching business during COVID. And I realized, and I didn't really I almost didn't really intentionally do it. I just kind of started doing it. And as I started talking to more entrepreneurs and working with clients, I realized things still happen and that spirit is still there. So, there's going to be no one's in the mood to do anything right away, after 9/11. I mean, that was devastating. But people do start moving on, or people do start, even though things alter our reality. I think that the clients that I talk to, COVID hardly ever even comes up in a way that's like, how can I start a business? I think it did at the beginning. But I guess my experiences around trying to sell a business around September 11th and applying to uncertainty now are just that things still grow and things still build and people still want things, even though things change. We're humans and we have drive, and humans are always trying to figure out solutions. And so different opportunities come up with crises.
Great. Yeah, Diane, I did have one question on my end. I mean, do you think, I know you've been through so many different things and ups and downs and points on the edge like that. Thinking back on that, what are some of the decisions that you think you made that were really kind of those make and break decisions that you went through, and kind of that how you got through those?
Yeah. Yeah. And I've made a lot of bad decisions too. I think the bad, I think the important thing is making decisions, because I've gotten in sometimes some parts of my life, I've realized that I'm not making decisions, and I have to wonder what that's about. And I think it's when that fear sets in and I'm sort of get paralyzed. I think I have an unusual lack of aversion to risk. And I think that the more that I try to not be who I am, the worse decisions I make. I think the more careful I try to be. And also, I mean, there's definitely a part to gut instinct and intuition. And I try, because I know that my gut is generally what I go with, my instinct and my gut. So for me, I try to incorporate more logic and planning. And I did start a business. I had a women's fashion business, and that was there were some good successes to it. So to answer your question, I think Graham typed in, what did I learn from the good and bad decisions and why? So like with my fashion business, I wanted to create a platform for women to have an income opportunity who didn't know, like mostly like women who were stay-at-home moms or got divorced. But my bad decision was I went into that like really with more intuition than a lot of planning. And a lot of my clients that I work with will say like, I'm not a financial person. And for my clients who are on here, know that like I make them not become a financial person, but I have learned that you have to understand the financial part of your business. Because that is a really common thing where entrepreneurs just kind of put that off on somebody else or just ignore it. I ignored it in my clothing business. I just was like, I'm going to grow. Like that's always been my thing. It's like, I'm just going to grow. I'm just going to build. I'm just going to grow. And that doesn't always, it doesn't work if the numbers don't align. So I have learned that cash flow is the most important thing. Or one of the most important things to, it's really important to make decisions. Like I can make decisions with my gut, but I also have to make sure that I have a cash flow, calculator handy so I can help to guide those decisions.
Great. And I know today we wanted to really keep to that kind of AMA, ask me anything type format. So, and we have a lot of people on here that are from the investor angle, from the founder angle. So feel free to jump in with, any questions from there too.
Could I ask a question about how you really scaled the business that you were in? So you mentioned that you ran, $1 million in ARR and got to a point where you're running $1 million in, I guess you'd say, did you say $1 million a day or $1 million
a week?
Yeah. So weekly, a WRR. If I was about to go DRR, I'd probably be nervous asking this question. But can you talk specifically what it looked like when you hit product market fit, and then when you put the gasoline on it, like how you knew that this is it, here's my ICP, here's my market, here's why they're buying, and now I'm going to scale it. Like now I'm going to add the gas. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it started because we started like really, really niche, and we just did there were basically like just 3 positions that we placed people in. And then we started getting asked, so we did title insurance. We started getting asked, do you do escrow assistance? We're like, no. And then we finally did escrow assistance. And then eventually we did mortgage processors. So that was part of the scaling, was where our clients drew us, and and how much, I love the book Rework. And they talk about when you hear something enough, don't write, they say never write down suggestions, because you'll have heard them enough. When you know that it's the right thing to do, you'll have heard them enough times. So that was one of the things, is when enough people asked us. And then hiring, we were always, we moved from Southern California. We didn't move from it, but we expanded. We moved into Florida, into Texas, into Phoenix. So we did both, where we found good people. So we might open a market where we found a really good person. Then we also did areas similar to Southern California, where we had Los Angeles County and Orange County, where there could be hubs. And we did let people manage their offices and their branches. And we also hired a really good operator. So one of our clients we brought on became our chief operating officer or something. I don't remember that. I think that was his title, but he was a very good operator. So that really helped us to scale. And a lot of like just making the best decisions you can at the time, just like being able to execute on things, like just making and then also like if things didn't work, we shut them down. Like one time we started a school to try to train people to do, and it was total failure. So we were like, shut it, and then we're able to just like do more of what worked. How do I live with bad decisions when it comes to winning investor confidence? I'm not totally sure I understand the question. Like, how do I sleep at night when I make bad decisions, or how do I talk to investors about them?
I think Fize is still on here. In the meantime, do you want to go to the next one? Do you have any books on
Yeah
to recommend?
Yeah, I know, Lucy, I love that question, but I can't even think of any off the top of my head. I think I need to like go back and read some. I'm gonna have to get back to you on that one. I think I mostly like do like listen to blogs and things like that, or read online, but I'll get back to you on that one. Yeah. Let's see what else. Now I guess like with finances, I think my main thing is just like not feeling like I have to be like a finance person, like not feeling like I have to be a CPA. And just, but yeah, just there's one, I actually have a cash flow calculator that is, I think it's on my website, but I can send it to you if you don't have it, or it's on my Slack channel. But I don't know. I recently read like a really cheesy book about cash flow, to be completely honest. That was like not like a main author you would have heard of or anything, but it was really helpful. So I'm happy to share that too. Assuming bad decisions knock some confidence, both for founders and for investors. It's tough. Like I think realizing that I think owning bad decisions and what you learned from them, because that I think that's really important, because they do knock a lot of confidence. They can. And I had a business that failed, the fashion company. I had to close that, and that it took me a while to get my confidence back. Honestly, like I felt like I went through a long period of just feeling like I didn't belong in the founder world anymore. And so I think I also had to realize, because I had this idea, like after having that one big success, like I had this idea that like everybody thought of me in this like successful founder way. And then I think I realized that like everybody's not thinking about me, and it's okay. And I can just like move on. So, but a lot of therapy, honestly, and self-help. Coming back to exit, how did you think about valuing your business back then? Oh, I like that question. Okay, so when valuing, so I do think there's a ton of bullshit out there on questions, like on like in this whole world. But once one of my advisors told me that the only way to value something is the only value of something is what somebody's actually willing to pay for it. So there's like whatever business you have, there's definitely like formulas and whatever times EBIT, and we certainly had that too. But we worked with an investment banker on that. But honestly, like for other, I mean, I did sell my clothing business, and like that was just basically whoever, I picked up the phone and called everyone I knew who might be interested. And it was whoever gave me the best deal that would work for my team as well. Yeah, I think just like you just have to see what's out there and what somebody's going to offer, because if you have you might have a valuation that's market valuation, but you might not get that. But also, negotiate. Like I think we would have in that first deal, if we didn't have, we had a really aggressive, awesome investment banker. And if we did not have him, we would have left a lot of money on the table because we just wanted it to happen. And he'd be like, no, and be like, but yeah, but that's only another $1 million. And he'd be like, no, like really, like, so just ask for everything and more. And know also that the deal, like you have to have an iron stomach for it too. My CPA at the time had said the deal will fall apart at least 3 times before it closes. And it did. And so there's a lot of like, you have to be able to walk away, and you have to have it. You have to, just be there for the long haul. And no, if it doesn't work, there's going to be another deal. There's going to be another deal that happens. Oh, that's fine. How did I compete with other temp agencies when heel biters started to emerge? So, it was funny too, because people would say, this was like one of the things that everyone would say, like because sometimes people come and pick up their paychecks and we'd hear at least once a month, oh, I had this idea too. Like I had this idea before you. And we're like, well, why the hell didn't you do it? Like then it's the it's the execution. Like, I don't think that you can, for me, I don't really look at competition in business. Now I'm thinking about it. I do, like on Instagram, like compare myself to other people, but in business, I don't really compete because it messes me up. Now that just made me realize I got to stop doing it in my personal life. But and also that goes back to the timing. Like with my fashion company, it was very hard. I had a direct sales model, and it was very hard to compete because it was honestly, it was bad timing. The market was already saturated. There were a lot of other factors, but our temp agency had really good timing. We were also the first ones to do our niche on a national level. So we did get the market share, and we executed on it. And then the company we sold it to ended up selling it to Kforce, and they ran it as our name. It was then called On Staff, and they ran it for several years after that under our brand. So yeah, did I miss anything?
I don't think so here. Perfect. Yeah, we are sharing out the contact sharing sheet as well. So Diane's website, you can, some of the resources you're mentioning, you'll find there. And then on the contact sharing sheet, if anyone wants to be able to network with each other, refer to that sheet as well.
Yeah, I work with founders one-on-one, and I have other resources, and we have a Slack channel as well. And also, I don't know if I have a link to the cash flow calculator. I'll put it, if anybody wants the cash flow calculator, because right now it's in my Slack channel with my clients. And the Slack channel, it's a private Slack channel that my clients are part of, but but anyone can book a free consultation with me, and then we can talk about if you'd be the right fit. And then I can also, if anybody wants the cash flow calculator, go ahead and email me, and I can send that out to you.
Diane, since you work with a variety of founders, have you noticed anything over the last couple of months in terms of trends working with them, of the types of problems and issues that you're dealing with them? Like, is there anything bubbling up where you're seeing more of this or more of that?
Yeah, it's been, thank you, Lucy. So half of my clients are pre-revenue. And so the things that come up are creating co-founder agreements, kind of solidifying their team, getting ready to pitch, that kind of thing that comes up a lot. Something we talk about too is how to have those conversations when you're creating your co-founder agreements, and things to look for that could come up. So it's kind of a combination of like being careful, but also doing it, like, because you can be too careful where at the fact that you're not to the point where you're not executing. Cash flow comes up a lot as well. So half of my clients are about like $1 million in revenue, a little less than $1 million, but maybe like $500,000-ish. And so cash flow does come up. And things like how to make decisions. Like my clients can also, they'll call me, and like we have regular sessions, but then they can call me in between, like when things come up like that. So we'll look at like, because some of the decisions can be really emotional. So we'll work on like actually looking at the numbers so that you can make decisions based on that. And then also even like getting clients in a regular paying schedule. So there's a lot of personal things that bubble up, because we bring like the issues that we have, we bring them to what we're doing. And so does everybody else, like, by the way, like our clients and our co-founders and whoever. So sometimes it's really like even tapping into that and being able to show up for yourself, but also to be able to lead your team. I had a really bad co-founder breakup. And I think my advice around that is bringing people on. That co-founder was basically, I was a solo founder. I felt like I needed a co-founder, and I got into a co-founder relationship with someone who I think just kind of wanted something to do and didn't really have that why or that reason. Yeah, that was a nightmare. And then we had some other ones that were like minor equity players, and those weren't that bad because we were able to we had contracts in place that were able to. So I guess like having contracts in place on how to separate when you need to separate, it's still going to be ugly and gnarly, but it helps to have that in writing. But I think the main thing is finding someone who it is really like that personal reason, like the business has to satisfy what they're looking for. Otherwise they can lose motivation, and it can be not a great situation. Yas. And stuff's going to happen. You're going to make bad decisions. You're going to have bad co-founders, hopefully not everybody, but it's going to happen. And just, you make the best decisions at the time that you can. And then you just, move forward.
Great. I know we only have a few more minutes here today. Diane, thanks again so much. I don't know if anyone else had any last minute questions here while we still have Diane's time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Diane, for giving your story to the community, as well as offering up your time to consult with any of the funders and founders folks via your website. Any last questions for Diane as we wrap up? Hey, look at that, everybody. It's Phil Rader.
Yeah, I'm telling you guys, 1,000 things. I've been listening in. I had a call for the first half. So wanted to thank Diane either way. I have been listening in, but it's been a testing Wednesday, as I'm sure everyone's doing their midweek.
All good. Thanks for joining.
Well, okay. Yeah.
I've got one for Diane.
Yeah.
So I advise for a lot of early pre-revenue companies, and I got the exact same question a couple of hours ago, and they always assume that they came from a space they can rely on those relationships. So I came from banking, so I can rely on those banking relationships to become something else. And the advice that I have learned after doing this enough over the last 4 or 5 years is that breakthrough moment when you're at pre-revenue to getting to it doesn't really rely on your current relationships. It's new relationships you haven't even met yet.
Yes.
And just from somebody who's actually done it to that to a $50 million a year scale, is that really what you found?
John, yes, we assumed, because my father's entire career was at Chicago Title Insurance Company. They wanted him to be CEO and he retired. Like he had the whole company on lockdown, right? So we assumed that's going to be our client, and he had retired. And anyway, we were like, yeah, even just like we'll service Chicago Title and we'll be good. Chicago Title was a very small part of our revenue. They became like our fifth client. We did a reference check at Fidelity National Title. They became a huge client. And I feel like, John, in anything, like whether I always feel like once you're like, if you're doing sales or business development or whatever, like while you're doing that work and you're open to it, other things just come in, and it's never, in my experience, it's usually not that one thing, that one client or that one partner, whatever it is that you think it's going to be.
Yeah, and the people that I advise, it just seems like they're waiting on that one thing to turn the corner, and I'm like, you don't even know who that person is that's going to turn the corner for you. So you're not having enough conversations.
Yeah, it's like that the Alchemist. I was talking to one of my clients about that. It's like you keep on, you're on the journey, right? And things like you just got to keep going on that journey. And it's like, and things just, the answers are revealed. Thanks. I like that question.
No.
Great. Well, if there's not anything else, Diane, thanks again so much for doing this for everybody. Obviously, we'll continue to see you at future lunch and learns and happy hours and all that stuff. But if anyone wants to connect with her directly, feel free to do that through her website. And then Diane, do you want to put your email in the chat as well?
Yeah.
Perfect.
There you
And
go.
then next Thursday, here I'll put it to everybody. Next Thursday evening at 5:30 Central Time, like normal, we'll do our virtual happy hour again, and looking forward to seeing everyone then.
Thanks for joining, everyone.
Cool.
Thanks for
Have a
having
great
me.
week.
Bye.
Thanks.